Kill the intruder.
c:/game/dusk/dusk.exe. First-person shooters today? Honestly, FPS is kind of dying out, so Dusk comes as a real surprise that's very welcome to a stagnating genre. Even more when you consider it's an old-school type shooter, not Call of Duty, for example. Dusk comes as an homage to Quake, Doom, and all the other of the likes, coming with several features that make it feel very authentic to the genre and time period it is portraying. Starting out, you will notice the delightfully retro look, fully customizable to make the game look newer or older. However, I'm really not sure why you would want to make the game look newer, as it feels very disingenuous to the theme and time period it portrays. On top of that, it just flat out looks weird. Like the textures that are being upscaled to a higher resolution, similar to how an emulator works, but the textures were really not that low res to begin with, so I don't know. On top of that, Dusk looks great in stock form. I didn't even change it. It's not a finger quotes retro game because an artist is incompetent. However, it looks great because the artist is extremely effective at laying out the scene. The art direction is superb and does a great job of making sinister and dark locations have plenty of colors and look varied/engaging. A good variety of well-theme-fitting monsters that all have great design is next. Some are cultists that are throwing out references to other games, like Blood,
Heretic.
that fire slow-moving dummy-fire projectiles, while others are similar, but they are faster flying and fire and forget home to the player. Following that, chainsaw gene wielding, chainsaw wielding Leatherface, chainsaw cut zoom spooky enemy is next. Goes fast, does many damage. One of the next enemies is a fully invisible, like jackalope looking thing that's invisible until it attacks. However, it's pretty noisy and leaves tracks on the ground, but you can hear it breathing as it gets closer to you. They do a lot of damage and they can really startle you. Near the end of the game, new monsters are introduced. One has a bone-breaking noise that plays whenever they die. I cringe so hard. Oh my god, that sound effect. Boss fights, however, are a little bit disappointing. Most of them are just pretty boring designs, with some of the other ones just being reskins of the smaller enemies and upscaled. Like, for example, one of the first bosses is the Duke Boys, which is obviously a reference, but it's just the homing missile cultist just made 10 feet tall. Another one's a crocodile that just shoots a cone effect in front of him whenever he opens his mouth. Later on, there's just it's the same crocodile, the same crocodilian, just made smaller, but less durable. It's kind of disappointing. But later on, there's a completely new design. Like, there's an underwater boss that has his own special sound effects, and he's introduced just out of nowhere, and then there's a bunch of weaker versions of him as normal monsters after. Then after that, there's a boss fight with a boss called the Guardian. He's really good and unique, but he can be quite tough. He throws mortars down on the ground at you as you're running away in a very tight corridor that can really kill you. Big Jim makes a return in this game, you know, as a meme, as he should. And one of the final bosses is Jacob. He's the guy who talks to you throughout the entire game. He was once worthy too. He has all the same skills and weapons you do, and is willing to use them.
At last. You finally arrived.
However, I do feel like they could have fleshed these out more. Some of them are different, but for the most part, like I said before, they're just upscaled versions of normal monsters, maybe with a slight change in mechanics, but not much. Now the next step is sound. Overall, the sound effects are all great. Guns have great audio feedback. Not even the handgun sounds weak. Weapons in Dusk not only look powerful, but sound the part too. Overall effects are great as well. Monsters have very well made voice lines, some of them being references, and other individual sound effects like the quake hup noise. Finally, the music. Andrew Huschault, pronunciation, does an amazing job of creating a soundtrack that not only sounds amazing, but also fits the game perfectly. It is an amazing blend of electric guitar, synthesizer, and even acoustic guitar. This mixed with the perfect sound triggers and the original 43 scores of music creates an amazing experience. The music almost always perfectly syncs up to what's happening on the screen. Sometimes these things are insignificant, but they have their own soundtrack. That's a detail. As previously mentioned, the man Jacob will sometimes talk over as a narrator and speak to the player. While he's not the finest voice actor I've ever heard, he's very genuine and he is trying his absolute best. And he does deliver a relatively good experience. Every now and then he's taunting the player, he's even leading them into a trap with the eventual person meet. It's interesting. Now for gameplay, the most important part. If you're a veteran of the Quake series or any of its clones, you'll fit right in. Jumping and strafing at the same time makes you run faster, perfectly executed tight controls makes the player in full control, and with the sky being the limit of the possibilities. The level design also gives many options on how to approach things. Breaking windows to avoid locked doors, the same locked door that may require a keycard. How quaint of an idea, they're even color-coded. Jumping over walls you shouldn't be able to unless you perfectly executed a jump while running at full speed, full time, at least 4 times in a row without making a single mistake. Dusk never punishes you for doing these things. The developers knew this would happen, and they even sometimes reward players for having such approaches. You would think that triggers or events would just simply not happen. That's not the case. They knew this was going to happen. And coupled with the secrets throughout the entire level, it rewards exploration. Some of these can be really tricky to find, and unlike in other games, at the end level screen, it'll play some music and tell you how many you got, you missed, how many monsters you killed, etc. It even gives you a time and how long they think it should have taken you to beat the level. They're a lot better at the game than I am. However, the level design being good, sometimes they'll spawn monsters behind you, and it makes a sound, and it's audible, but it still feels a little cheaty, because a lot of the time they get a free hit on you. This, coupled with the very hard difficulty, can lead to some really cheap deaths. However, the great level design and tight controls, most deaths are the player's fault. If you dodged a little more to the right, you would have survived. Most of the time, it's on you. There's a gauntlet towards the end of the level. On Sierra Miedo, I don't know. The difficulty, it's pretty hard. The level's called The Dweller in the Darkness, and if you're about my skill level, plan on dying. Oh my god, just plan on it. I'm not the most amazing Quake player, but I died like 20 times. I have never save scummed in the entire gameplay, but that was where I wanted to do it the most. I never did, but I almost caved. Dusk has a lot of weapons to choose from as well, ranging from pistols, dual pistols, a shotgun that reloads like the Terminator movie where you flip it like you're literally driving a motorcycle, because why not? You can also dual wield it, which is pretty cool. They both flip. A super shotgun that, in my opinion, is one of the best to bless in FPS. I think it's better than the Doom shotgun. A riveter that's basically a nice rocket launcher, a crossbow that can penetrate any surface or enemy that also knocks you back with just a little bit, allowing you to kind of hover. And finally, a sword that does serious damage but is almost always hidden. Power-ups are in the game as well. They're there. I mean, there's a few. There's one that makes where you can climb walls that kind of changes the dynamic a little bit, but it's only for a short period of time. Another one that lets you shoot super fast. These are kind of cool because you can stack them, so if you get like 4 of them, you can go ham. And then there's another one that's literally super hot, where time only moves as you do.
I knew he'd come.
There's lots of small things here and there that sprinkle the competence all over Dusk. You know, for example, video game movie culture references galore, but it's very tastefully executed. It's never like tacked on to get a YouTube video put up so that way somebody sees their game. It's more of an homage to the past and maybe a, hey, this is what inspired us to make Dusk in the first place. Dusk, however, does lend itself quite a bit to its inspiration very frequently. It's not very innovative or game-changing. It plays almost identically to Quake. Only one of the weapons in the game is its own, and it's kind of tough to say that because it's a crossbow that throws you back a little bit, but it's not a direct link, but you could argue that it's very similar to other titles. The monster design in a lot of cases can be similar to other games as well, or it's extremely basic overall. However, Dusk may not be the most original game, it may not be the most innovative game. It certainly is very fun, and I highly recommend it. The soundtrack and the gameplay both are superb, and overcome every shortcoming the game has. It's been a long time since we've seen a game play like this, and it does it perfectly. Hell, the soundtrack alone is worth the $20 they charge for the game. Everyone loves to praise Mick Gordon about his Doom soundtrack on the previous 2 Dooms that just came out. I don't think so. I really think that this one did a better job. It just, Doom got more clicks because it's Doom. This is what Quake should have been when it got its sequels. Buy it.